Hello, I'm Raymond and this is Nightline. The headlines. Malacca Negeri Sembilan to move to next phase of National Recovery Plan. And the Housing Ministry to provide aid for groups affected by COVID-19. Good morning. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob has announced that Malacca will enter Phase 2 of the National Recovery Plan (NRP), while Negeri Sembilan will proceed to Phase 3 on September 4th. This leaves Kuala Lumpur, Selangor, Putrajaya and Kedah as the only states and federal territories in Phase 1. In a statement on Thursday evening, the Prime Minister also said that the government's special committee to address COVID-19 has given the go-ahead for Langkawi to be the first tourist destination in the country to reopen as part of a travel bubble pilot project from September 16th. Other destinations will be allowed to operate in a similar capacity once they hit an 80% vaccination rate. He also mentioned that representatives from the opposition bloc will be part of the committee, which is to be known as the Pandemic Management Special Committee from now on. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister stressed that Malaysians need to be prepared to live with COVID-19 as an endemic after October. Therefore, the Health Ministry has been requested to present new pandemic and endemic strategies that are appropriate. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri also said that he welcomed the suggestions on efforts to make behavioural changes as announced by the Health Ministry a day earlier. The Malaysian family, he said, needs to be aware that eventually they will have to live with COVID-19, just like the rest of the world. The local housing and local government ministry will be providing residence for groups affected by COVID-19 at minimum rent for at least 2 years. Its Minister Datuk Seri Rizal American said he would be announcing further information on the Residence Aid Initiative for residents affected by COVID-19 pandemic. In his first media conference after being appointed to the post, Datuk Seri Rizal American said the COVID-19 pandemic had given a major impact in terms of the people's economy, as some had lost their jobs. Some were even unable to cope with daily expenses, as well as paying rent, and among them were hawkers, petty traders and residents of the People's Housing Project (PPR).
Dan maka itu sebab itu ada inisiatif yang telah digerakkan oleh pihak kementerian even sebelum saya masuk, dan insya-Allah saya akan umumkan paling awal pada hari Monday ini untuk kita sediakan kediaman-kediaman ataupun tempat bagi membantu mereka yang terkesan akibat penularan COVID-19 ini. Agar sekurang-kurangnya di kalangan mereka yang tidak mampu dan sebagainya dapat mencari tempat untuk berlindung dan akhirnya dapat mendapat livable house ataupun livable kediaman.
The minister also said that his ministry would continue the Community Vaccination Mobilization Program MOVAC 2.0 by focusing on PPR residents and petty traders in 6 states with low vaccination rates, namely Terengganu, Perak, Johor, Kedah, Kelantan and Sabah. On public sanitization, he said it will continue, but only at targeted areas where there are many people. Datuk Seri Rizal American said the large-scale sanitization would now be carried out at places such as wet markets, walkways and public amenities in public housing areas. Confined spaces that require constant sanitization were also included in the list. The government announced a ceiling price of RM19.90 for COVID-19 self-test kits in retail stores starting September 5th. It also capped the wholesale price of the kits at RM16. The demand for rapid test kits is expected to increase following heightened public awareness in self-assessment to ensure they are not infected. According to a joint statement by Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin and Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Datuk Sri Alexander Nanta Linggi, the ceiling wholesale and retail pricing of COVID-19 antigen rapid test kits is made according to the appropriateness and suitability for more effective enforcement to ensure reasonable prices and availability of supplies in the market for the benefit of consumers and traders. The ceiling price will see a significant reduction in retail prices, as many of these kits are sold between 28 ringgit and 40 ringgit. Traders who flout the regulation can be punished with a maximum fine of 100,000 ringgit or jailed up to 3 years or both for the first offence. Repeat offenders can be punished with a fine of up to 250,000 ringgit or jailed up to 5 years or both upon conviction. Corporate bodies can be punished with a fine of up to 500,000 ringgit for the first offence and 1 million ringgit for subsequent offences. Malaysia hit the 20,000 mark of COVID-19 new infections on Thursday, a day after it dropped below that level. The Health Ministry said 20,988 new cases were detected, with Selangor recording the highest number of cases with 4,073 infections, followed by Sarawak and Kedah. A record 249 patients succumbed to the deadly virus, with 80 brought-in dead cases. This brings the country's COVID-19 death toll to 17,191. The number of patients in intensive care units, meanwhile, once again breached the 1,000 mark, with 470 people in need of ventilators. Of the 31 new clusters detected, 17 were related to workplaces. There were also 23,473 recoveries, bringing the total number of those discharged to 1,506,273. In the meantime, a total of 310,074 children and teenagers below the ages of 17 were found positive for COVID-19 between January and August this year. According to the Health Ministry, the whopping number is 24 times higher than what was recorded for the whole of 2020, when only 12,620 children and teens were positive for the coronavirus. According to the statistics, 81,168 infants and children under 5 were infected with COVID-19 this year, with 3,180 cases recorded last year. A total of 47 children under the age of 18 years old have also died from COVID-19 since the pandemic hit the country last year. The Health Ministry said as of last Monday, a total of 41 fatalities involving children were recorded this year, the other 6 having died last year. This represents a 0.01% mortality rate out of the total 322,694 of those under 18 who have been tested positive for COVID-19. In other news, the Armed Forces is prepared to help the Health Ministry set up field hospitals for the treatment of COVID-19 patients, as well as to ramp up vaccinations in rural areas. Senior Minister for Defence, Datuk Sri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein, said the move would accelerate the battle against the pandemic in view of the high volume of daily cases in at least 5 states, as well as ensure the balance between lives and livelihoods as the country charts out plans for the endemic phase of the virus.
Ia bagi membantu memberikan rawatan ke atas pesakit-pesakit COVID-19, khususnya yang berada dalam keadaan tahap 3 ke atas. Saya percaya bantuan ATM ini akan dapat membantu berupaya mengurangkan beban yang ditanggung oleh KKM di negeri-negeri berkenaan.
The senior minister, speaking at a media conference, said the armed forces will also help increase the capacity of drive-through vaccination at locations to be determined by the COVID-19 Immunization Task Force, CITF. He explained that the armed forces is ready to coordinate field hospital assistance and the vaccination team to be dispatched within 1 or 2 weeks to the required location. Still to come on Nightline, body of man missing in Sungai Dungun found.
Entrusted to manage the country during tough times, a cabinet selected to stabilize the country and put the interests of the people first. Speed is of the essence. How does the new administration prove its performance in the first 100 days? Money Matters speaks to ICMR Chairman Tan Sri Munir Majid.
Join Zahir Kelvin Ong Abdullah this Saturday at 5 p.m. only on TV3. Welcome back to Nightline. The Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia, CAAM, has cleared the Boeing 737 MAX for commercial flights again, ending a 2-year regulatory grounding after 2 crashes involving the aircraft. CAAM CEO Chester Wu said this directive was applicable to Malaysian and foreign airlines operating commercial flights using Boeing 737 MAX aircraft into, within or outside of Malaysian airspace. The Boeing 737 MAX was grounded following the crash of a Lion Air-operated aircraft off the coast of Indonesia in October 2018, killing all 189 passengers on board. Another Boeing 737 MAX owned by Ethiopian Airlines crashed minutes after takeoff from the Addis Ababa Bole International Airport in March 2019. Both crashes prompted the government to suspend Boeing 737 MAX 8 operations. Police will start hauling up those involved in a cult group spreading deviant teachings, calling themselves Kumpulan Perjalanan Mimpi Yang Terakhir, or PMYT, led by a woman claiming that World War III will begin in Sabah soon. Inspector General of Police Datuk Sri Akril Sani Abdullah Sani said such groups are not new in the country, with many similar ones having come and gone over the past decades, but having been managed well by security forces.
Kita ada cara kita untuk kita menghadapi perkara ini. Dahulu pun kita berhadapan dengan perkara sama juga, dan kita telah berjaya mengatasinya. Jadi kita ada teknik, ada cara, ada kaedah yang kita laksanakan. Dalam hal ini pihak polis percayalah kita tidak leka, dan kita akan sentiasa memastikan bahawa ia tidak akan sampai menimbulkan kerisauan dan keresahan di kalangan masyarakat umum.
Datuk Sri Akril Sani said the main persons behind PMYT, which among others tells its followers to prepare for doomsday or World War III, have been identified. He said police will need to work with other agencies, including Islamic religious bodies, for advice before they can go further into their probe regarding the matter. The leader, a woman who goes by the name of Sita Anur, has claimed that World War III would be sparked from Sabah before spreading to other states, and that their members would consist of trained former and present uniformed men and women. Although it has been claimed that the group has over 3,000 active members in the country, they are mainly members of social media groups such as on WhatsApp and Instagram. He was speaking to reporters after a handing over ceremony for the Police Commissioner of Sabah duties on Thursday. Dato Idris Abdullah, who was Bukit Aman Management Department Deputy Director, took over from outgoing Sabah Police Commissioner Dato Hazani Ghazali in the ceremony. In Johor, 3 evacuation centres have been opened in 2 districts following flash floods due to heavy rains since early Thursday. A total of 33 victims from 8 families have been evacuated at the 3 centres. The 2 districts were Johor Bahru and Pontian, while the 3 evacuation centres were Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Skudai, Dewan Raya Kampung Melayu Batu 10 and Sekolah Kebangsaan Melayu Raya in Pontian. Among the affected areas are Jalan Kampung Masjid, Masai, Kampung Bukit Pulai, Taman Pasir Putih and Kampung Sentosa Barat, Pasir Gudang. In Pontian, the affected area is Kampung Paya Embun. The water rose to about 1 metre due to the continuous rain which started about 2 a.m. So far, there were no reports of injury. After nearly 40 hours, the body of a man who went missing while bathing in Sungai Dungun near Kampung Tok Ka has been found early on Thursday. The drowned body of 21-year-old Ahmad Firdaus Afiq Che Yusof was found stuck on a river sand barge at about 8:15 a.m. The discovery was made at about 3.3 kilometers from where he was reported missing. The body has been handed over to the police for further action. Ahmad Firdaus Afiq was reported missing last Tuesday after going for a swim in the river with 5 of his friends. The Armed Forces has posthumously promoted the late Lance Corporal Muhammad Azrin Muhammad Isa to the rank of Corporal. Army Chief General Tan Sri Zamros Muhammad Zain said this is in recognition of his service throughout his 7 years in the Army. General Tan Sri Zamros said assistance will be given to the deceased's heirs based on the Permanent Forces Regulations, Pension, Gratuity and Other Benefits 1982. Azrin was a member of the Pathfinder Company Para team and is believed to have drowned while undergoing the Para-Predator military exercise on Sunday. His body was found by the villagers in Kampung Serengkam, Maran, about 70 kilometers from the scene at 8:15 a.m. on Wednesday. Azrin was laid to rest at the Kampung Pinang Dalam Muslim Cemetery in Sungai Petani around 2 p.m. on Thursday. After the break, 9 dead as remnants of Hurricane Ida causes historic flooding. Nightline continues and on to the foreign front now. The governors of New York and New Jersey declared a state of emergency late on Wednesday as record-breaking rains from tropical storm Ida led to flooding and hazardous conditions on the roads, with media reporting at least 9 deaths. The rain on Wednesday night, 3.1 inches in Central Park, New York in an hour, shattered a record set only last week, when 1.94 inches of rain fell in the park during Tropical Storm Henri. As the remnants of Ida brought drenching rain and the threat of flash floods and tornadoes to parts of the northern mid-Atlantic, nearly all New York City subway lines were suspended late Wednesday. At least 5 flash flood emergencies were also issued by the National Weather Service, stretching from just west of Philadelphia through northern New Jersey. In the meantime, people are urged to stay off the streets and let the first responders and emergency services get their work done.
Yep. Those people.
South Korea is in the final stages of developing a ballistic missile that can carry a warhead of up to 3 tons, as the country unveiled budget proposals aimed at bolstering its defenses against North Korea. In its defense blueprint for 2022 to 2026, the Defense Ministry said it would develop new missiles with significantly enhanced destructive power, upgrade missile defense systems, and deploy new interceptors against long-range artillery. Officials said among those missiles is a new weapon with a flight range of 350 to 400 kilometers and a payload of up to 3 tons, designed to destroy underground facilities, such as those North Korea is believed to use to store nuclear weapons. The missile would be the latest in a tit-for-tat conventional missile race between the two Koreas that is set to accelerate after South Korea and the United States agreed to scrap all bilateral restrictions on Seoul's missile development earlier this year. In 2020, South Korea announced its new Hyunmoo-4 short-range ballistic missile could carry a 2-ton warhead, while in March, North Korea tested an SRBM that it said could deliver a 2.5-ton payload. The Hyunmoo-4 is South Korea's largest missile. In other news, the UK's health minister said on Wednesday that the government will offer a 3rd vaccine jab to 500,000 people with severely weakened immune systems. Health Minister Sajid Javid said a 3rd dose will be offered by the state-run health service to those who may have received less protection against the virus from 2 vaccine doses. Javid announced the rollout after the government advisory body, the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization, recommended a 3rd dose for those aged over 12 who have conditions such as leukemia, advanced HIV, or recent organ transplants. It said that the 3rd dose, by preference, should be an mRNA vaccine, meaning not the AstraZeneca jab. The announcement comes as the UK government is considering whether to follow several other countries in issuing booster jabs to the population as a whole, potentially in early September alongside the flu jab. Sports six-time world badminton champion Chia Lik Ho has booked his place in the last four of the Tokyo Paralympics after another convincing win in his second Group B match on Thursday. Lik Ho, who is competing in the men's singles SU5 physical impairment category, was in stunning form as he defeated Jen Yufeng of Chinese Taipei 21-13, 21-9 at the Yoyogi National Stadium. World number 2, Lik Ho, was glad that Yufeng gave him a good fight after an easy 21-3, 21-2 opening group win in just 15 minutes over Egypt's El Dakrori Ahmad Magdi Amin on Wednesday. The second seed will complete his group fixtures against Japan's Taiyo Imai on Friday. Meanwhile, heavy rain dashed the national cyclist Muhammad Yusuf Hafizi Shahruddin's hopes of putting up a good fight in the men's road race C13 physical impairment category as he ended his Tokyo Paralympic campaign in 33rd spot. The 23-year-old Paralympic debutant found the wet conditions at the Fuji International Speedway in Shizuoka too tricky to handle and ended the race, which had 39 participants, one lap behind the leading pack. Great Britain made it a 1-2 finish, with Benjamin Watson taking gold in 2 hours, 4 minutes and 23 seconds, and Finlay Graham the silver. France's Alexander Liet settled for bronze. Moving on to football now, Japan slumped to a shock 1-0 defeat against Oman in the opening game of the 2022 World Cup final Asian qualifying round on Thursday. Both teams struggled in wet conditions, but it was Japan's Shuichi Gonda who was the busiest of the two goalkeepers, keeping out efforts from Rabi Al-Alawi and Ali Al-Busaidi. Isam Al-Sabi struck the 88th minute winner 4 minutes after coming off the bench, as Hajime Muriyasu's men remained disjointed and second best throughout the game at rainy Panasonic Stadium. It's Japan's first defeat in 9 games through their qualifying campaign. As we wrap up Nightline this time around, let's take a look at Japanese artist Shiota Chiharu's exhibition called Uncertain Journey, which is held in Taipei. And it was initially scheduled to run from May 1st through August 29th, but was extended until October 17th after the museum was forced to close due to the virus pandemic. With that, I'm Raymond Go. Thank you for watching and stay safe, Malaysia.